Over the last week and a bit, I've been leveling up Furina, farming her boss materials, leveling up a weapon, getting her talents up, and artifact farming. A lot of artifact farming, to be exact. So if you want to see me suffer trying to get decent artifacts while waiting around for Furina's boss to respond, then stick around till the end. So let's get into it. Of course, first I'm going to do a round of the boss, that way then I can focus on doing other things while waiting for it to respond. Also, don't look at my team. I was trying to reach great heights and I don't have Wanderer on this account, so I was using a combination of a few characters. If you want to know how well that went and even more information on why I was even doing it in the first place, you can check out my Furina wishing video. I'm going to go into this fight with my Clurin team. I really want to challenge myself this time to use as many teams as I possibly can throughout my time building Furina, as I typically find myself using 1 or 2 teams for weeks or even months on end, and I end up forgetting that I have all these different characters I can use. Anyway, now that the first round of the boss has been taken care of, I can start with a little bit of artifact farming, as it's not just Furina that I need to farm, it's also all of them. I never farmed Golden Troop or Marshal Hunters when the domain first came out, all the way back in 4.0, as at the time the only character I hadn't built and that could benefit from the set was Fischl. I have Yamiko, but I had spent a lot of resin farming Gilded Dreams along with Deepwood for a few other characters. So, at the end of the day, it didn't make sense to farm Golden Troop or Marshal Hunters, especially when I didn't even know what characters I was going to end up wishing for and what their artifact set might even be. So that's how I got myself into this mess, and I'm definitely regretting that decision, at least a little bit. In hindsight, I should have at least done a few rounds of this domain every now and then, as I could also use these artifacts as offset pieces for other characters. Now granted, as much as I have other characters that need the set and desperately need to be built, I'm only going to be focusing on Furina today, so I'm only going to be leveling up the artifacts that matter to her and her only, as I definitely don't have enough materials to level up everything. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Clurin, the character that I wasn't planning on pulling for but still came home early, all because I wanted 1 copy of Sethos. I'm glad that I got her, but I'm still very salty, as not only did she take some of the Primo gems that I had saved up for Furina, but also my hero wits and Mora. Lots of Mora. Anyway, now that I've ran out of condensed resin, let's run over and do the boss another time. And I'm just going to stick with the same team as I'm just too lazy to change them out. Plus, I also want to try out Arlecchino and Bennett against this enemy. Also, Yolande's just here to cheer on the team. Now we just wait again. In the meantime, I'm going to do another batch of condensed resin, as I definitely don't want to spend more time in the artifact domain than I have to. Well, shit. I'm almost out of crystal flies, and 25 of them isn't going to be enough to do all the condensed resin I need. So I guess I have to farm some crystal flies. Well, time to bring out my level 40 Yao, as her passive makes farming these creatures a little bit more easier. And I guess this segment will make up for the fact that I've already pre-farmed Furina's local specialties, as I farmed them a long time ago. I wanted Furina since her original banner run. However, at the time I only had enough to get up to her 50-50, and unfortunately I lost her 50-50 to Mona. So I had to wait until Furina's rerun to be able to get her. However, in the meantime, I started collecting and pre-farming some of her materials. I started my journey at Dawn Winery, as I remember that there's a lot of them flying around in between bushes. I was able to collect a few, and also spent an embarrassing amount of time trying to scale the Dawn Winery house, only to have spooked all the crystal flies in the process. So I just gave up and went back to Fontaine, as I remember that there's a lot of crystal flies over there as well, that's both easy to get to on both land and water. Like here, and here, and over here. Now that that has been taken care of, let's do the boss another time before going back to our regular scheduled artifact farming. And now we're back into the deep, dark trenches of artifact farming. Yay! This is going to be so much fun! I really dislike artifact farming. Now granted, the first few rounds, hell, even the first 10 to 15 rounds of the artifact domain isn't that bad. And I quite like it. But then you get to like your 55th round of fighting the same enemies in the same domain with the same set of characters as that team clears the domain fastest, and you're just so done with artifact farming. Then you get up to the tree, hoping that you finally get that one artifact that will complete the 4-set bonus. At this point, you don't even care if it has great substats or not, as you just want to get that one piece so that you can finally move on and you don't have to set foot in this domain again. And then bam, you get slapped in the face with a defense main stat with double crit, and you have to do the domain for the 56th time. And that's why artifact farming is the last thing that I do to finish a build, as if I ever get to that point where I just want to give up, I can't. And I still have a half-decently built character. Can they clear 412 of the Abyss? No. But can they clear domains and overworld? Yes. And that's basically all I care about, mostly. I'm going to end off day 1 with leveling up Furina as far as I can. We got a lot of stuff done today. We fought her boss a couple of times, and as a result, we were able to get Furina up to level 60. We also have gotten some potential artifact pieces, though really only time will tell if they're actually going to be usable or not. New day and new commission. I'm quickly going to talk about my plans, as today is going to be a very packed day, as it's Sunday, which has to be one of my favorite days in this game, as it means that all of the domains are open. So with that being said, I'm going to try and focus on leveling up a weapon that I'm going to be using for Furina, as well as her talents. However, I don't know how much time I'm actually going to be spending in her talent domain, as I definitely bought a few battle passes, and I haven't built nearly as many Fontaine characters as I thought. So I might just have enough talent materials lying around to fully level her up. Fingers crossed that I do, as I don't want to waste too much resin in the talent domain, but we'll figure that out when we get there. Now that I'm finished with my commissions, I'm going to do yet another round of the boss before I get into figuring out what weapon I want to use for Furina. Speaking of the bosses, I am really excited for 4.8, as we no longer have to wait around twiddling our thumbs waiting for the boss to respond. Now, what weapon should I give Furina? I know that there's quite a few options out there, like the pipe, Fav sword, the key, and even Furina's signature weapon. However, I am going to go with the Fav sword, as personally, I'm not going to fish for the pipe. If I'm going to fish for any weapon, it would be the catch. Now, before you grab your pitchforks and start chasing me, I did start fishing for it a while back, but like most things that I start, I never finish fishing for it. It is on my to-do list, when I can remember that it's even on there, and I know that there are a few characters that desperately need it, but that's a later problem for future me to figure out. Once I fish for the catch, and if I still want to continue fishing, then I will get the pipe. But until then, I'm going to stick with the Fab sword. Though there might be some competition later in the future for Furina's weapon, as in 4.8, I am going to be wishing for Navia's weapon, which could land me a copy of the key, or maybe two. Kind of like what happened with Lenny's weapon, but we don't talk about it. Or maybe for once in my life, I'm actually going to get the weapon that I want on the first 50-50. Maybe, please, I'm begging at this point. Also, speaking of wishing for weapons, I am not going to be wishing for Furina's weapon. Kind of. In all honesty, I would love to get Furina's weapon, as it's just so pretty. However, I am not touching the weapon banner simply because it looks pretty, especially when she's being paired with characters whose weapons I have no need for. Now moving on to her talents. Buying the battle pass, exploring Fontaine, doing the events, and not leveling up too many Fontaine characters has left me with quite a few talent bucks lying around. So fingers crossed that I don't have to farm the talent domain too much, as I really want to keep as many of my fragile resin as possible for the many rounds of artifact farming that I'm going to have to do. However, unfortunately, I did mess up a little bit, as I accidentally started leveling up Furina's normal attacks, but only to level 3, so I didn't waste too many bucks. Now, in my defense, there are characters that need their normal attacks leveled up, like Arlecchino, who I was building not too long ago, and I'm still working on leveling up her talents to this day. I'm not getting the drops that I need every week, so it's taking me a bit longer than I thought to finally get her triple crown. Speaking of weekly bosses, I've also been passively farming Furina's weekly boss materials as well. Though I haven't built as many Fontaine characters as I have liked, I still built a few who use the drop from the narwhal, like Navia, and that's it. Damn. No wonder I have a lot of these materials lying around. I've only built one character. Okay. I literally thought that I've built more characters than that, but I guess not. However, despite all of that, I still don't have enough to fully double crown her, as I am just 2 boss materials short. So I can only get one of her talents crowned, and I'm going to have to wait to level up the other one. I do have about 4 of the Dream Solvents in my inventory, but I don't like using them until absolutely necessary. And this is not one of those times, as I can simply just wait for a couple of weeks until I get the number of drops that I need. Especially because there's other characters that I'm going to need to farm the narwhal for, so I might as well get a head start on that. Anyway, now that that is all done, all I have to do is wait until I get enough weekly boss materials to finish crowning her burst. Now it's time for everyone's favorite part of the video, artifact farming. This is where you actually start building your characters. As I said in the beginning of this video, I do have some other characters that need this artifact as well, but I'm not focusing on them right now, as I'm only looking for and leveling artifacts for Furina, and that's it. As for what artifacts I'm going to be looking for, I'm going to be looking for an HP Sands and Goblet, as Furina scales off of HP, and also a crit circlet to help with her personal damage. As for the substat, I'm looking for as much HP and crit as possible. However, I'm definitely not going to turn up my nose at some ER, as there's no such thing as characters having too much ER. 3 artifacts in a row? That's never a good sign. I don't know what it is, but whenever I get 3 artifacts in a row, they're all trash. See? All trash. Not the greatest kickoff to my artifact session, but at least we got one potentially good piece, hopefully. Since we ascended Furina and leveled up her talents, I'm going to be taking her into this domain. I do this so that I can get a much better understanding of how the characters work, as well as what teams I want to use, and also the team rotations as well. That way, when I bring my newly built characters into the Spiral Abyss, I'm not spending an eternity trying to figure out what the character does while trying not to die at the same time. Also, a small disclaimer, I am just trying out different teams. So some of them may work, some of them may not, some of them I might hate, and some of them I might love. However, I would love suggestions on what teams I should use with Furina. So if you don't mind commenting what team you love using and why down below, that would be awesome. So with all that being said, I'm going to try a taser team. It just sucks as I know that there are so many better characters that will fit this team, but I just don't have them built yet, so I'm kind of stuck with these characters, which I don't think would be terrible per se. It's just that I'm lacking a main DPS on this team. Like, the only character that could potentially be my DPS is Yaomiko, but she works much better as an off-field sub-DPS more than anything. Damn, nothing good again. As for the team this time, I actually enjoyed it, but what I said before was true. However, it does give me hope that once I build the right characters, then I would have a really good team on my hands. As for the next team I'm going to be trying out, I'm going to try out a Hyperbloom team. More for the shits and giggles, but also I kind of want to see how well it works. I do have to say that out of all the teams I've tried, I had the most fun playing the Hyperbloom team. So I might play around with different versions of this next time and see how well that goes. I did way more artifact farming than what I've shown here, but I just didn't want to bore you with all the different runs that I ended up doing. However, now I have quite a few artifacts that I want to level and see if they're actually any good. Hold up, this might actually be good. Okay, not bad. Now we're talking. And of course, it ends with going into flat attack. Yay. But in all honesty, it's still not a bad piece, and I'll most likely end up keeping it. On to the next piece. Nice. Hold up, is this actually going to be a good piece? Maybe. Now we're talking. And it rolled flat defense at the last second. But still, that is a really good piece. Okay, let's go. And again. And another one? And then once again, it's rolled into defense. What is this? I get really good crit stats and then immediately get defense. But maybe our goblet can redeem ourselves. Okay, that's actually pretty great. Okay, now we're talking. Okay. And then it immediately goes into attack. It couldn't have gone into ER at the very least. And then this is my semi-finished build. I did go back after this and reconfigure a little bit of her crit stats just to make it a bit more even. I do have to say that I am very astonished by how easy Furina was actually to build. Now granted, I've gotten extremely lucky. I got really good pieces. But not only did I get really good pieces, but those pieces rolled really well. What I just showed was no exaggeration of how they actually rolled. There was maybe 1 or 2 pieces that I ended up giving up on, but everything else I didn't. Is there room for improvement on my Furina build? Absolutely. But at the moment, I would say she's pretty much done. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to see more videos of me building other characters, such as Arlecchino or Clorin, you can click over here. So until next time, see ya.